Welcome, viewers, back to the Atheist Roundtable with your host, David Oliverio, the Preaching Humanist. That is I. And looky here, Clare is back.
Hey.
Clare.
Hi.
Welcome back, Clare.
I am so glad to be back.
It's good to have you back. And my buddy, Eric.
What's going on, y'all? Good to be back.
Man, did we have a good time yesterday.
Man,
yes,
we
you did.
Yesterday,
I saw
Eric
video.
and I, oh my gosh, what an experience. We're out doing our activism in downtown Austin with our atheist T-shirts on and our atheist signs. And Eric, tell the viewers what happened to us yesterday.
Well, we were watching, we were at the Texas Tribune Festival, and we were watching a speaker, and we were standing back just listening, and then we noticed about four guys, I think it was. One of them had a red MAGA hat on, and they had cameras and a microphone, and they were standing back against the same tent, and they were filming. And I noticed on the microphone it said InfoWars, and they just real quick had said something over there, and then they saw us. They saw our shirts, and I saw the guy with the microphone turn to the camera guy and say, let's go over there and talk to these guys. And so they came up, and his name is Owen Schroyer, and he's like the co-host with Crazy Man, Alex Jones, and came up and started asking us questions about our shirts and what we believe. And really was trying to do a gotcha moment is what his whole intent was. But he found out that it's not that easy to get us.
That was really fun. I tell you, I was so fired up. And then we went down the street to another corner in downtown Austin. We just stood there with our signs up, Atheist Community of Austin, and keep church and state separate and all that. We had tons of people come up to us.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have a GoPro. We need a GoPro camera.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Yeah.
We did. We had a lot of people, because, the Texas Tribune Festival, a lot of people from out of state come for that. And we had people from New York City. We had people, I don't know, just several different people come up to us say, well, I'm from this place, and, what do y'all hear about? What are y'all doing, And so we'd let them know, we're atheist activists. We're trying to normalize atheism, trying to put a face to it, that we're not out there eating babies and raping and pillaging.
Yeah, and worshiping the devil.
Right.
All the other things they think. Yeah.
So,
We love our children.
Yes, and we are going to
We
talk
live
about
normal lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Clare, tell us what's going on with you. You're so involved, and I really appreciate all you do here on the board and so many shows, and you do so much. So what's going on with your shows and so forth?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, I'm Clare Wuellner, and I'm one of the hosts of Godless Bitches, which is a show that talks about the intersection of atheism and civil rights. It's really, feminism is part of it, but it's also civil rights. And we broadcast live usually on the first Saturday of every month at 11 a.m. And then the second Saturday is a pre-recorded but then live streamed show also at 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings. We're trying to go to every Saturday, but that requires lots of time and energy, and we're working up to it. And the reason that I want to talk about Godless Bitches is because we've done several shows, and I've been told by people who are behind the scenes and stuff that the shows are really awesome, and I want the viewership to go up. I want people to see what we have to say. It's important stuff. Yesterday's show was about Kavanaugh and Ford, and the thing that we talked about primarily was the things that I see on Facebook. People say, "Why didn't she speak up earlier?" It must not have really been that bad because she didn't report it. How his people saying that his testimony was credible, and if you know anything about human behavior, trauma, sexual assault, it's easy to understand all of those things. And I wanted to raise awareness about that, so we had an expert come in who specialized in sexual trauma and then sexual assault and that sort of thing, and she really cleared a lot of stuff up, I hope, for people.
I like that. An expert. We have experts that we can trust in different fields.
She has over 2 decades of experience and just amazing stuff. Beautiful. So, check out Godless Bitches. I really,
awesome.
It's a great show.
Thank
We've
you so
been
much.
promoting your show.
I appreciate that.
Actually, yesterday I think I probably gave out at least 3 flyers that have all our shows on them to females, and I Absolutely told them, y'all might be really interested in this show, and told them it's a great show. So, yeah, we're promoting it for you.
Yeah. So one more thing, and then we're going to get into the topic. We're going to talk about love today. Yeah, important love. And does it come from the biblical God? You know what we're going to say about that. We are going to attempt I'm going to listen to my buddies. They've been after me for a while now about, man, David, come on, let's take some live calls and do the Atheist Roundtable live. And I've been kind of fighting on that for a while. And I had my epiphany the other day. 30 years ago, I would have said, the Lord told me this. So I had my epiphany the other day. I said, what the hell? Let's do it. So in a few weeks, we will attempt to do a live Atheist Roundtable. Now, not the Preaching Humanist. Yeah, not the Preaching Humanist show.
No.
My little Preaching Humanist is just me trying to reach progressive Christians or Christians on the fence, But this is going to be different. We're going to take in live calls, and we'll have guest hosts. I've never done it before. I don't know what to do.
It's fun.
You've done it. I've never been on a talk show live with callers. So just have to show me what button to push, and we'll go. We'll have some fun. So we're going to start in a couple weeks.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. All right, so let's get to the topic. A few weeks ago, I did a message on the Preaching Humanist show about love. And I used the premise from a Christian preacher and the Bible, 1 John chapter 4, which says, God is love. He that loves knows God, but he that does not know God does not know love. That's wrong. We can refute that and debunk that easily. So here is the premise, and then I'll open it up to my two hosts here today. A Christian pastor said this, quote, we as human beings, believe it or not, are totally incapable, not just incapable, totally incapable of loving others without God. Really?
Stupid.
Wow. This must be corrected by God before we can love. Now, before I turn it over to y'all, I get this often from Christians I talk to. All the years I've done activism, pastors, evangelical Christians, and so forth. Believe it or not, they're stunned that we can love. And the question I've asked many people, do you love your children and grandchildren more than I love my children and grandchildren? You're a Christian and I'm an atheist. Believe it or not, some say, yes, I do. And that's the concept we get. So let's talk about that. Where does this love really come from and so forth?
Well, everything psychological is biological. Everything that we have previously attributed to what's going on out there somehow, emotions, spirituality, all those things, when you start to look at it with science, it's all biochemistry, it's all here. And as some of you might know, I had a concussion a few months ago, and it became extraordinarily evident to me how much this is who you are. Because when I had the concussion, it changed me. I am now a different person, and I'm having to get used to that. It had nothing to do with anything out there happening. Something physically got damaged in my brain, and now I'm a different person. I'm just having to accept that new normal. So who you are is just an amalgamation of what's going on up here, and also chemicals that are in your gut. Serotonin actually is produced in your gut, and adrenaline's in the next to the kidneys and the adrenal glands and all that stuff. So there's all that. Love, it's marvelous. If I describe something where your senses are heightened and your sex drive is out of control, and this is romantic love, of course. You have great self-confidence and you're aware of everything around you. You don't sleep, you don't eat. I'm describing cocaine.
A drug.
It is a drug.
Okay.
It is a drug. And when you look at all the chemicals that are involved in everything that has to do with lust, attraction, and then attachment, they all have opioid or morphine-like chemical structures.
Yeah.
So it's a drug. And so when they say you can't know love until you know God, when you look at the brains of religious people, when they're thinking about their religion, they light up like they're on drugs.
Yes.
Just the same way people light up when they're in love.
Absolutely. It is a drug.
It is a drug. And so when they say, oh, you can't know love until you know God, they're stoned to the bejesus on the chemicals that they're releasing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now
And so it does feel good. And it is love. Sure. But you don't get it from up there. It's in here.
Yeah.
And so I remember reading a study years ago where they did MRIs or some such with the brain, and they looked at what parts of the brain light up when they would read scripture and get all spiritual and stuff. And the two main parts were centers that have to do with love and imagination. So, and since then there have been a lot more studies, and I've been reading on it, trying to sort it all out. But it all is in the brain. It all of it makes sense when you pull it apart. So, yeah. There are two main groups of chemicals that have to do with love. One is, of course, hormones, which are slow acting. They are like 2 to 4 hours in your body.
Excuse me, would that be oxytocin?
No, not yet. Those are neurotransmitters.
That's why I have here Clare here. She's a scientist, so
it's a cocktail of stuff. It's
David was holding that back, man.
It's got to be oxytocin.
We'll get to oxytocin.
I do talk to Christians about oxytocin, but there's more to it.
There's way
That's
more to
why
it.
Claire's here.
Right. So the hormones, estrogen and testosterone, all the androgens, those are what's responsible for lust.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just
procreation.
Plain old lust, right?
Yeah.
There you go. And that's the first stage. So you see someone, and everything in your experiences and your personal makeup says that person is attractive to me, and your brain goes whoop, and you get the adrenaline going, and you get the hormones going, whoopie-doo, and the hormones are what kick the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the attraction part, there's a whole nother suite of, as they say. This is when we get into neurotransmitters. Those are, one of those is oxytocin. But there's a bunch of them. You start with, let's see here, something called phenylethylamine, PEA, which is also found in chocolate.
Oh.
This is why people like chocolate.
And I love chocolate.
Well, who the hell doesn't?
I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, there are people who don't like chocolate. I understand that. But part of the reason that we adore it so much is because we have come to associate the taste of that with feeling a little bit of love. I mean, who doesn't want that, right?
Absolutely.
So, and there are other stimulants in there too that help you feel a little bit more excited and stuff. But that triggers norepinephrine, which is sweaty palms and the increased heart rate and not needing to eat and all that sort of exciting stuff. And you don't sleep. And then also dopamine. And dopamine has to do with learning and desire and mate selection. A lot of what we know about love and connection and all this stuff has been learned on what are called prairie voles. It's a little small mammal, and they do experiments by injecting them with, because you can't do this to a person. Like, here are two random people, let's put them in a room and inject them with stuff and see what happens. Although there have been experiments where they do eye gazing experiments with two people. They make them look at each other for
I've done that on a couple first dates before I met Christine,
Right.
Eye gazing, Didn't last more than a minute or two, but...
Right, but if you do it for an extended period of time, I don't remember how long it was, like something uncomfortable, like 10 minutes or something, a super high percentage of the people wound up getting married.
Oh.
I mean, these were random people in an experiment, and it wasn't revealed to them that was the purpose of it. So, fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It's dopamine is what feels good about doing rewarding things. So, where's the cell phone? That's one of the greatest deliverers of dopamine in our brains. Every time you pick that up and I got a message. Dopamine.
Yeah.
There.
Absolutely.
And same with falling in love. I mean, you
But
see
this-
that person and it's like, hi again, and you get that love again.
But this is all biological.
All
right? This is
biological.
all about procreation, hooking people up for mating so the human species will continue, and all other animal species. That's what I tell Christians all the time.
Here's the thing, is that all these things are present to a greater or lesser degree in all vertebrates and that have been studied. And, these chemicals are also found in fish and stuff. So we're not that damn special. We probably feel these things to a greater degree, and these probably have been evolved to be more prevalent because we are social animals.
Absolutely.
And so that connection is way more important than if you're, say, a bear. You know, they don't really need to fall in love and hang out with somebody for the rest of their lives and all that stuff. So in addition, after about 18 months to 4 years, you know, when that first blush wears off, because your brain habituates to those super upper chemicals, the other things start to kick in, like serotonin and endorphins. Endorphins, you know all about this, and because you both work out a lot, those endorphins are what start pumping when you exercise a lot. They feel good. They quiet pain. They bring calmness. And those are also released when you are with somebody with whom you are comfortable. And it brings that sense of calm and connection. So here's another interesting thing. I think, was it endorphins? I'll get to it. Oh yeah, it's oxytocin. I'll get to that one later. That's the really crowning jewel of all these is oxytocin, because once you get through all the serotonins, which is actually produced in in your gut.
In the gut.
That's what gives you a sense of well-being and happiness and contentment. Too much of it, OCD. Too little of it, depression.
So we're talking pure naturalism here.
Are we now? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So nothing
it's all
supernatural.
made
It's all here. The mind
It's
and the body are
all
one.
there.
It's all
Yeah.
right here.
And the more we study it, the more we sort these things out. And
Absolutely.
it's bizarre. If you look into any one of these chemicals, they affect so many things. Like one of the chemicals that's important is vasopressin, which is a diuretic, right? It's used for people who need to take diuretics. It's also important in forming attachment.
That's important.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you pee more and it makes you attached to somebody. What the hell is, after that? But they're, chemicals are strange. They're just chemicals. They don't think, they just do.
They do. It is what it is, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And then we get, after a long while, you get into the oxytocin stuff. Oxytocin was first discovered to be important when it comes to labor. It induces labor. And that's a fascinating process if you want to get into that some. But, and then also in lactation. And women who were studied how much oxytocin they had in their bloodstreams, there was a correlation between high oxytocin levels and lots of vocalization, oh, baby, talking, and touch.
I do it to my cat.
Right? It's
I do baby talk to my cat.
Yeah.
I have feelings of love for my cat.
Absolutely. Oh, really?
Yes. Well, not that kind of love. Not that kind
I'm
of
not
love.
even talking about that. I'm just saying we love. It's just a normal thing.
It is.
It is, let's see. Here's something that I found very interesting. I learned this as I was researching this. When you cry, oxytocin and endorphins are released. So you're in pain of some sort, you cry, and your body releases those hormones, and that's why after you cry, you feel better.
Oh, could that be back in my Pentecostal years? We used to go in the prayer closet, and we'd weep before the Lord and cry and worship the Lord and speak in tongues, and we'd come out, we'd feel so wonderful.
Hi!
Yeah,
You're
and
high!
I know. We thought we had
Yeah.
You don't want to do
communicated.
cocaine in that closet?
Well, we're on the
It's the same
Jesus
thing.
pill. We thought we were so close to God. It was the Holy Spirit touching us, but it's all biological.
It is completely that, and it's powerful stuff. Let's see, it has to do with trust and well-being. It's also released with touch, and it is important for female arousal. All this brings me to one thing that's important that people should realize. When you lose someone, death, breakup, whatever, and you feel like you're going to die, you've come off of a drug. It hurts. It really actually hurts. This is not all in your mind. And it's been shown that after breakups, typically within 3 months, you're back to normal life. So it takes that long to come off of that drug that you've been addicted to for a while. It's a drug. It's just a cocktail of drugs.
Your body produces, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they say you can't have love or no love without God. And I think that also goes back to, they don't care whether it's actually biological or anything. That they don't care about that. But it's another way for them to keep people under their power. It's another way. They tell you that, and then you think, oh, my goodness.
I don't want to lose that.
I don't want to lose
It feels
that.
good, right?
So I must stay within this mindset and these things that they've told me because that's the only way I'm going to know true love. That's the only way I'm going to find my wife or keep my wife or love my children. How am I possibly going to love my children if I don't have God?
Speaking
So
of
they
that,
use it as a control method.
now you lead me into the next topic.
Cool.
Parental love.
Ooh,
Now,
that's a
you said,
biggie.
now, you're a parent. I'm a parent and a grandparent. You're a parent and a grandparent. We're all very strong atheists. And yes, Christians I talk to still have a hard time accepting the fact, how can we love because we don't know God? Believe it or not, they still think that. Now, I'm going to make a quote. Claire's the person of science here, and you've already agreed with me. There is no greater love. Now, I can quote from the Gospel of John. We used to do this all the time. There's no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Speaking of Jesus, that's the perfect example of love. I'll tell you the perfect example, the best thing we have here in reality. And I've already written a song about this. I want to play for my mother's funeral, which is coming up soon. But, of course, my dad disowned me, so I probably won't be able to do this. But there is no greater love on earth, in reality, than a mother's love. It's irrefutable. Show me in nature a greater love. The closest thing we have to pure altruism, if there is such a thing. We know
I
about
would say
reciprocal.
so.
The closest thing to pure altruism, pure love, unconditional love, is a mother's love.
Yeah.
Agree? Disagree? I mean,
Yeah.
across the animal world.
Sure.
Across the animal world.
I agree. I mean, absolutely. I mean, and just coming from my perspective, I think my love for my children is just as strong as my son's mother's love for him is.
Okay.
So I think it's
No,
absolutely.
father's love too.
But I mean, I love my son
Sure.
and my grandson and my grandchildren
I
to
know
an
you do.
extent where I would lay my life down for them in a second.
I know you
what I mean?
would, because you're out there with them
And so that's the
often.
point. That does not come from some unknown thing.
But there's a difference between, and I'll just point this out, that there are difference between men and women. And when you look at oxytocin, most of the studies show that it's very important for women on a number of levels, but not, and it's there for men, but not as much so. I know from lots of experience with talking with other parents, when you have to get to that point where you have to lay down the law with a baby, like make it sleep the night through, the moms are helpless. It's usually dad who stays in the house. He can bear it. Mom has to get in the car and go.
Yeah.
And she can't hear it. She can't stand to hear it.
Yeah.
And there's also a physiological thing. I mean, it's we are so wired for that. If you are a woman and you have breastfed before and you hear a baby cry, your milk lets down. You are powerless. It's completely wired. There's nothing
Biological, yeah.
biological. And here's the other thing that's interesting when you talk about a mother's love. When I was in graduate school, we did experiments using mice going through mazes. And the way to make a mouse never tire of doing that maze is to use not food at the end of it, but have a mother and her pups. And she will endlessly look for and fetch her pups back to the nest till she dies.
Wow.
That is the power of these chemicals. It's just chemicals.
It
feels good.
goes outside of just the human animal. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I tell believers all the time, watch nature videos. We go camping and hiking. I love nature. I love animals, local fauna and flora, especially fauna. But I love to watch nature videos, and I saw a video the other day of a mother leopard in the Masai Mara in East Africa, right, the plains. And she had 3 cubs, kind of sad, but one of the cubs wandered off, and a harpy eagle, one of the largest known predatory birds there are, swooped down and got the baby leopard. It was pretty sad. Took it to the tree, killed it, began to eat it. This was all on video. Now, what do you think the mother leopard did? She doesn't have
She didn't care.
She didn't care. She didn't have a leopard god. She didn't have to read some leopard Bible to learn how to love. Instinctively, naturally, she went out searching for her cub.
Yep.
And it's awesome at the end. She finally she looked up in a tree and saw this large eagle devouring this corpse of her child. Pretty sad. She snuck in that tree, snuck up on the eagle, grabbed the eagle and killed it, of course, and she saw the carcass of her baby fall. And she ate the eagle. Now, of course, to be fair, the leopard does the same thing, kills a baby wildebeest and zebra and all that too. It's just nature, which can be cruel, but it is what it is. So where do these feelings come from of parental love? I mean, come on.
It's adaptive. If you don't have that, some chemical or something telling you to take care of your progeny, you're not going to pass on your genes. If you want to look at it in cold, hard chemistry there.
It's evolution. You know, it's evolution.
There you go. My favorite word.
If we didn't have those chemicals within our body, those things to make us want to reproduce, to make us want to protect our young, we would go extinct, you know? So it's evolution. It has nothing to do with fantasy fairy tale man who's got his finger on us, you know, and saying love, you know?
Yeah.
It's not at all. I'm an atheist. You're an atheist. You're an atheist. I love people, you know, and for, you know, and it's really arrogant for people of faith to say that, say that you can't know love without God, and you don't love your children as much as I love my children because you don't have God. What an arrogant ass that person is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Some of them, honestly, you know this. We go out and talk to believers all the time. A lot of these people really mean well. They're actually pretty good people. They just, some of them are a-holes, I understand. Some of them are, they have the a-hole gene or they have a low MQ moral quotient, whatever. But these are good people that have been infected with a virus. I mean, they believe this stuff. So.
And here's the other thing that's a little bit of evidence more about this is that there are people who are incapable of it, narcissistic personality disorder and that sort of thing. They're incapable of love. And those sorts of people break other people. If they have children, the children don't attach, and it's pretty serious. So, yeah, these chemicals are important. It is possible to not have them, and if you don't, you're not going to work very well in our society.
See, this is when this is when I wish we had some live call-ins right now. So we're going to have to continue with this right now.
Okay.
And then point number 2 I wanted to make is biblical love conditional? Now, we just talked about conditional love versus unconditional love. And one more time, I got to use a quote from Reverend Piper, a preacher's quote here. This is what he said. Is the experience of the love of God, we're talking about biblical love, unconditional? Now, back in my preaching years, I used to think, of course, God's love is totally unconditional. Here's what the preacher said. He answered his own question. Emphatically, no. Capital N-O with an exclamation mark. No, it's not. It is not, he said. It is conditional or contingent upon 2 things. Number 1, I'm not going to get into James chapter 4 in the New Testament, but it's in the Bible. Number 1, you got to humble yourself to God. And number 2, draw near to God. And then God will unconditionally love you. Wow. So let's talk about the difference, of conditional and unconditional love. And again, what example do we have of
narcissism?
There you go.
That's just completely narcissist. I was raised by a narcissist mother, and her love was very conditional. I had to toe the line in various and sundry ways, and then she would love me. That's conditional, and it's not really love. It was what fed her. So But
then on the other side of that, I think a mother's love, that is a true mother's love, is also unconditional, because I can only imagine that
that
you,
is unconditional
with your child, if that child was to do something that was bad for you or something of that nature, you would still love that child.
Right.
And so there's the unconditional part of it, but yet you're still an atheist.
Right.
And yet you still have that unconditional love.
Right. And as a mother, I look back at the things that the woman who raised me did, and I don't understand how she could do them, because I could never do that to my child.
Did she have obviously some issues?
Narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah. So, it's one of those things that you have to work through, for sure.
And it can be hard, you know. I mean, you know, even, you know, with stepchildren, you know, and I raised a stepdaughter, and you know, she's had a hard time finding her place in life, you know, and I raise her son. My ex-wife raises her daughter, you know, and I'm angry at her for some things, but I still love her. You know what I mean? She always pick up the phone and say, "Dad, I need something," and I would be there. You know what I mean?
Yep, totally.
So, you know, I mean, it's and that's not even, she's not my blood. You know, she has none of my genes in her. You know, but I still love her.
Beautiful,
that
beautiful.
way.
Now you have a biological son as well.
Yes. I have a 25-year-old biological son.
Yeah.
So I mean, of him as well. You know, obviously, you know, I mean, and I have. I mean, there's been times when he was younger, just in college. I remember I was at work and I'm an ER nurse and I'm busy night in the ER, and I get a phone call from a hospital. Says, we have your son here. And I said, hang on, wait a minute. And I called my supervisor over. I said, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So, and they were totally good with it, you know. And so I didn't even get the whole story before I told them I'm leaving. And then as I'm walking out the phone, I get the story, you know. So, I mean, right then, it's just drop of the hat. You know
Of course.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Of course,
You know?
and we all would. So, again, my whole message is when we do talk to people that don't understand this biological concept, which science has shown us, right? That's why we have these feelings for people and others, and especially biological children and so forth. And it is to allow people that still hold on to these mythological concepts, these supernatural beliefs, that you can have love. And I would say, just like we told the guys when we were interviewed yesterday, remember I said, and I tell believers this all the time, since I have been an atheist, 28 years now at least, I actually, and I have to always tell them over and over again, I'm not perfect, because they get a little bit upset at me. They think, oh, you think you're so perfect. I said, no, I'm not perfect, but I do have more love, more empathy and sympathy for humanity now as an atheist and secular humanist than when I was a Christian. And my love for my kids is the same, because they're my biological kids and my grandkids. And I think this is a message we need to show believers and change this stereotype that atheists are angry, mean, nihilist, bitter people. And when we're out there all the time, don't we get that from people? They're very surprised at this very simple concept, but yet powerful, important concept of love. It is about love. I love love. We love love. We love to be loved. We love to love.
Well, you know,
and we're atheists.
Something that when we were speaking to that preacher yesterday, was talking about, he wanted us to come to his church and everything, that guy.
Oh, that's a pastor, yeah.
A pastor. So, and he said, remember we posed the question, maybe you did or I can't remember. So we asked him, as atheists, we do not believe in your God, but we're good people. We do good works. We go feed the homeless. We just came from doing that. We help people. We love our children, all those things. So, but yet, even though we're just as good as any good Christian, we're still going to burn in hellfire. And we asked him that question, do you think that? And first he tried to kind of hem and haw and and this and that. I said, well, no, what do you believe? I mean, it's there in the Bible. And so he did. He said it.
But he said, oh, that's a tough one for me.
He did. He said,
they all struggle.
But at the end, he said it. Well, yes, I think you're going to burn in hell, but I would pray for that not to happen. But then David said, but that's not what it says in the Bible. Your prayers ain't going to matter about it, because it's God's choice, that because we don't believe, even though we're the greatest people might be, we're still going to be sent to hellfire.
Got to have that magical ticket.
That's love.
It's not love.
That's abuse. That's what that is.
that's
You know, that's like taking a perfect example would be, you know, a husband or a boyfriend with his girlfriend or wife, and beating her until she loved him. You know,
Oh, it works real well.
you know what I mean? I mean, that's what I equate that to, kind of.
It is. It is
you,
abusive.
you better love me, because if you don't, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
It's completely.
I bring up, and I tell Christians this all the time. Now, perfect example of conditional biblical love, just like this preacher said. He said it's not unconditional, is in Deuteronomy 28, where God says, obey all my rules and laws and love me, and then I will bless you. I'll be good to you and love you back. It's contingent.
Yeah, it's
and then all the
absolutely
curses in the second half of that chapter, and he says, but if you do not obey me and do not love me and do what I tell you to do, I will curse you and put plagues on you, have snakes bite you, put diseases upon you. I mean, that's not love, yet Jesus is love, you know. It really blows my mind. So I think we have a message as atheists to show people that this is just simply biological. Would y'all agree with that?
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then tell them, yeah. All right. You guys want to add anything else to this beautiful topic of love and how we can just love without belief in any Bible God?
Yeah. I love my life.
Yeah.
I'm a happy person.
Just be kind to one another.
Yeah.
You know, be kind to one another, and you ain't got to love every single person, but try to be kind. And things would be a whole lot better if people did that. In general. Even people you don't agree with, or
Yeah.
even if you don't have the same belief as that person, doesn't mean they're a horrible person. We're atheists. We're not horrible people.
How about the platinum rule? I love that rule. Treat people like they want to be treated.
There you go.
Oh, but you stole that from the Bible. I get that
Did
all
I?
the time.
Oh,
Or the
God.
golden rule. They say, well, you get, like the
That's
preacher
the golden
yesterday.
rule is not right. Because if I treat you like I want to be treated, I want to be treated like a cis-het woman who's an atheist. And you are none of those things. I should treat you like you are and meet you where you are. If you are trans, then by God, I'm going to meet you right where you are. If you are gender fluid and your pronouns are they, I'm going to use they. That's where you want to be. It's got nothing to do with I understand or anything.
Yeah, I'll accept
What do you need?
for what you are, and you
If
accept
you want
me
to
for
be
what I am.
Christian, cool. Just stay out of my laws, and we're
There
good.
you go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's the platinum rule.
I like it.
All right, I think we're going to close up. So in a couple weeks, we're going to start back with the Atheist Roundtable, and we're going to do it live, and we're going to have some call-ins.
Yep, y'all
so
call
be
in.
prepared, call in, and I will learn to be a good button pusher and push the right button. You think I can figure that out, Clare?
Oh yeah, I could, so you can.
You,
And I did push the wrong button once. It happened.
I'm sure the guys on the other side of the wall are not going to let us mess it up.
They're very forgiving.
those
They're very
guys
forgiving.
are awesome, by the way. And I think one of
Yeah.
these days we need to, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a list of all the names of the people in the back that do the behind-the-scene work, all the more inconspicuous people who make this whole stuff go here at the Atheist Community
Yep,
of
we
Austin.
just show up and talk. They're the
We
ones
just
who put
yak-
all
Easy
this
part.
together.
Yeah, and they know. They said, just do what you do best and we'll take care of the technology. And I'm like, thank you so much. So it takes a group, and that's what we got here. So, all right, well, thank you so much for watching the Atheist Roundtable with your host, David Oliverio. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
See y'all next time.